Hello and welcome. It is January 29th, 2026, and exactly 4 hours ago, NASA's Deep Space Network confirmed an event that violates every known law of celestial mechanics. I am not talking about a slight orbital deviation. I am not talking about a sensor glitch. I am talking about synchronization. At 9:15 UTC, the James Webb Space Telescope detected a high-energy pulse originating from 3 Atlas. That was expected. But what happened 12 minutes later across the main asteroid belt has a probability of occurring naturally of 0.00%. Picture this. You are looking at a field of 100,000 dead cold rocks floating between Mars and Jupiter for 4 billion years. They have drifted in chaotic, random silence. Then, in a single heartbeat, they changed. Data from the European Space A's Gaia mission shows that 104,320 distinct objects simultaneously altered their rotation rates by exactly 0.44 degrees per second, all of them at the exact same moment. Think about that for a moment. And in physics, entropy dictates that systems move toward disorder, chaos, randomness. But this is the opposite. This is order. This is a command signal. When I look at the telemetry from the Golston Observatory, the conclusion is terrifyingly simple. The asteroid belt is no longer a collection of debris. It is waking up. It is acting like a single cohesive organism. For decades, we searched for biological life, carbon-based, water-dependent, fragile life. We looked for microbes on Mars. We listened for radio waves from distant stars, but we made a fundamental error. We assumed life had to look like us. What if the infection isn't biological? What if it is lithographic? The spectral analysis coming in right now from the Atacama Large Millimeter Array in Chile suggests that 3L Atlas didn't just pass by these asteroids. It transmitted a code, a wake-up call to the silicon within the rock. And the scary part, we are seeing thermal spikes on the surface of Vesta and Ceres that shouldn't be possible in the vacuum of space. These objects are generating their own heat. They are metabolizing energy. NASA's internal memo leaked just 45 minutes ago calls this a Class 5 kinetic anomaly. But let's be honest about what that really means. It means the rocks are moving on their own. If you have ever watched a flock of birds turn in the sky, you know they move as one mind. A hive right now 240 million kilometers from Earth. The largest structure in our solar system has just formed a hive mind, and 3 is the queen. The data I'm about to show you defies standard physics. It challenges the very definition of living and the implications for Earth. Well, let's just say the solar system just got a lot more crowded. Let that sink in. To understand the magnitude of what happened today, January 28th, we have to look back at the vector, and we need to look at the patient 0.3 I Atlas. When this object was first cataloged by the Atlas Survey in Hawaii, the astronomical community labeled it a hyperbolic comet. We thought it was a ball of ice and dust accelerating due to outgassing. That is the standard model. That is what we are taught in Astrophysics 101. But the data we have collected over the last 6 weeks proves that model is obsolete. San Alas is not a comet. It is a catalyst. Think of it like a virus entering a bloodstream. A virus is small, almost insignificant on its own. But when it finds a host cell, it rewrites the code. It hijacks the machinery. San I Atlas entered our solar system, pierced the plane of the ecliptic, and moved directly into the densest part of the main asteroid belt. It didn't crash into anything. It didn't need to. It simply transmitted. The infection began on December 19th, 2025. This is the date everything changed, though the public is only learning about it now. At 14 hours UTC, the Deep Space Network station in Madrid picked up a narrow band frequency coming from 3 Atlas. It wasn't radio noise. It was a sequence. NASA's engineers initially dismissed it as background interference from a passing satellite. But then something impossible happened. Detailed telemetry from the Dawny orbiter, which is currently in a holding pattern near the dwarf planet Ceres, picked up the exact same frequency. But here's the catch. It wasn't coming from Atlas anymore. It was coming from Ceres. Pause and realize what this means. A rock, a dwarf planet with no atmosphere and no technology, received a signal and retransmitted it. Within 48 minutes, that signal jumped. It moved from Ceres to Vesta, from Vesta to Pallas, from Pallas to Gaia. We witnessed a chain reaction, a digital contagion spreading at the speed of light across 200 million kilometers of space. 3 independent sources have now validated this transmission event, so there is no room for skepticism here. First, NASA's Goldstone Observatory confirmed the carrier wave frequency at 4.2 GHz. Second, the European Space A's Gaia mission, which tracks the precise position of stars and asteroids, detected a micro-jitter in the positioning of 12,000 asteroids at the exact moment the signal hit them. And third, the ALMA radio telescope array in Chile Cross referenced the data and found a thermal boom coinciding with the signal. 3 sources, different methodologies, identical conclusion. The asteroids were receiving a download. But that was just the beginning. That was just a handshake. What we are seeing now today is the execution of that code. Let's look at the data from the last 72 hours. This is where the physics gets truly disturbing. On January 25th, anomaly number 1 appeared. We call it the thermal pulse. In the vacuum of space, an asteroid's temperature is determined entirely by its distance from the sun. It is a passive relationship. Sunlight hits the rock warms up, sunlight leaves, the rock freezes. It is simple thermodynamics, but the infrared sensors on the James Webb Space Telescope are currently showing us something that violates this rule. The 100,000 objects infected by the Atlas signal are currently maintaining a surface temperature 40 degrees Kelvin higher than the surrounding environment. Where is the energy coming from? They are too small to have a molten core. They are too cold to have nuclear fission. The only explanation, the only physics that fits, is that they are generating energy internally. They're metabolizing. Think about your laptop. When it processes data, it gets hot, and the silicon chips generate waste heat as they crunch numbers. We are seeing the exact same thermal signature on a cosmic scale. These aren't just rocks anymore, and they are processing information. And then came anomaly number 2, the course correction. Yesterday at 3:14 UTC, a cluster of roughly 400 asteroids in the Flora family was on a collision course with a larger body, 243 IDA. In a natural system, they would collide. That is how the belt works. It is a grinding machine, but they didn't collide. ESA's tracking systems watched in disbelief as the smaller asteroids accelerated, changing their velocity by 12 meters ss and effectively swerved around the larger body. Let me put this in perspective. So imagine you are watching a landslide. Thousands of rocks are tumbling down a mountain. Suddenly, midair, the rocks decide to change direction to avoid hitting a tree. That is impossible. Rocks do not have agency. Rocks do not have fear. Rocks do not make decisions unless they are no longer just rocks. This brings us to the most fascinating concept in modern theoretical physics. Panpsychism meets lithospermia. We have always assumed that for something to be alive, it needs DNA, it needs RNA, it needs water. But looking at this data, I have to ask, are we being too narrow-minded? Silicon is right below carbon on the periodic table. It shares the same chemical bonding properties. We use silicon to build our artificial intelligence. We use it to build brains. Is it so hugely leaky to suggest that a sufficiently advanced signal, a driver update from 33 Atlas, could activate the latent potential in these silicon-rich bodies? What we are witnessing is the boot-up sequence of a solar system-scale computer, and the data gets stranger. Right now, spectroscopy is detecting a change in the surface composition of these objects. We are seeing spikes in metallic hydrogen and rare earth elements that were not there a week ago. The surface of these asteroids is churning. They are reorganizing their own atomic structure. NASA's Curiosity team has seen this before on a microscale with bacterial colonies that mine minerals, but we are seeing it on objects that are 500 kilometers wide. The infection is transforming the asteroid belt into something functional. It is turning a graveyard of debris into a construction yard. And you have to ask yourself if they are building something, and if they are communicating, and if they are moving with intent, what is the final goal? Because anomaly number 3 just started appearing on the monitors 2 hours ago. And this one frightens even the most seasoned astrophysicists at JPL. The 100,000 infected objects are not just moving randomly anymore. They are converging, they are aligning. When you look at the orbital trajectories plotted on a 3D map, they are forming a shape, a geometric structure spanning millions of miles. It's not a cloud anymore. It's a grid. The numbers don't lie. The probability of random asteroids forming a perfect geometric lattice is effectively non-existent. This is intelligent design. but it's not ours. And the implications of this are rewriting our understanding of the universe in real time. We used to wonder if we were alone. Now we are wondering if the ground beneath our feet is watching us. But wait until you hear what happened next, because the signal from 3 Atlas just changed its modulation and the response from the asteroid belt. It wasn't silence, it was a roar. Hold on, because what I am about to break down in the next chapter explains the mechanism behind this impossible physics. We are going to look at how a rock can think. When we talk about living asteroids, your mind probably jumps to science fiction. You might picture rock monsters or alien spacecraft disguised as debris. But the reality, the physics we are seeing right now, is far more elegant and far more disturbing than any movie. We need to talk about the impossible thermodynamics of what is happening in the belt. Let's establish the baseline. In the cold vacuum between Mars and Jupiter, the ambient temperature is roughly 73 degrees C, and in Earth rock like the asteroid 16 Psyche should be in thermal equilibrium. It absorbs solar radiation. It remits it as heat. The equation is balanced. Input equals output. But the data streaming from the Spitzer Space Telescope archives, compared against today's live feed from JWST, shows a violation of the first law of thermodynamics. The 100,000 infected objects are outputting 14% more energy than they are receiving from the sun. In physics, energy cannot be created or destroyed. So where is this extra 14% coming from? If it's not solar and it's not nuclear, there's only one option left. Zero-point energy extraction, or perhaps something more grounded, yet equally revolutionary. Piezoelectric consciousness. Think about quartz. It's a crystal. If you squeeze a piece of quartz, it generates a spark of electricity. This is the piezoelectric effect. We use it in watches, in lighters, in sensitive microphones. Now consider the composition of these asteroids. They are silicates and they are crystalline. They are billions of tons of potential piezoelectric material. The working theory among leading astrophysicists right now, and this is a hypothesis that was considered fringe just 48 hours ago, is that the signal from 3 Atlas is resonating with the crystalline structure of these asteroids. Imagine a singer hitting a high note that shatters a glass. Now imagine a specific frequency that doesn't shatter the glass but vibrates it, oscillates it. The pulsum atlas is causing the crystal lattice inside these asteroids to vibrate at a molecular level. These vibrations generate electricity, massive amounts of it, the heat we are seeing, and that's the byproduct. That's the exhaust. But here is where the physics gets truly fascinating: electricity flowing through a structured lattice. That is the definition of a computer chip. A computer chip is just a rock silicon that we have tricked into thinking, and we etched pathways onto it to guide the electrons. What if the 3 Atlas signal isn't just energy? What if it is a blueprint, a magnetic field that aligns the internal structure of the asteroids to create those pathways? We are not looking at biological life. We are looking at lithology. The rocks are becoming brains, and the evidence for this thinking process is showing up in the movement data. Let's look at the trajectory anomaly detected by the European Space Agency yesterday at 1842 UTC. This is a data point that prompted the emergency closed-door meeting at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. The asteroid Tenhuaya is the 4th largest in the belt. It's massive. Moving something that big requires a tremendous amount of force. Yet Hyaya just adjusted its orbit by 0.08 degrees. But here is the impossible part. There was no exhaust. When we move a spacecraft, we fire a thruster. Action-reaction. Gas goes out the back. Ship goes forward. Hyaya moved without ejecting mass. This defies Newton's third law, unless the interaction is electromagnetic. If these asteroids are generating massive internal electrical fields, they could theoretically push against the sun's magnetic field. They could be using the solar wind as a highway. They are sailing on the magnetic currents of the solar system. This is a propulsion system so advanced we only theorize about it, and yet a bunch of dead rocks are executing it with surgical precision. Let me put this in perspective. Humanity has spent 60 years trying to build a solar sail. We struggle with it. And right now we are watching 100,000 dumb rocks perform a maneuver that our best engineers can't replicate. Does that sound like a natural anomaly to you, or does it sound like a technology? The skeptical part of my brain wants to dismiss this. I want to say it's a measurement error. I want to say it's a glitch in the deep space network. But when three separate observatories in California, in Chile, and in orbit all report the same violation of Newtonian physics, we have to accept the data. And the data suggests something even more profound about the nature of 3 Atlas itself. If Atlas is the source of the signal and the asteroids are the receivers, what is the bandwidth? We analyze the signal density. The amount of information being transmitted in that 4.2 gigahertz pulse is staggering. It's not just a wake-up call, it's a library, and it contains exabytes of data. If I were to speculate, and as a theoretical physicist, that is my job, I would say that 3 Atlas is uploading a consciousness. It is upload a mission profile. These asteroids aren't just waking up. They are being trained. They are being programmed. And this leads us to the most disturbing question of all. If you have 100,000 autonomous drones powered by infinite solar energy, capable of reactionless propulsion, and linked by a high mind, what do you do with them? You build the grid I mentioned in the last chapter. It's not just a formation, it's a lens. At 50% of the way through this analysis, I have to show you the simulation models run by the supercomputers at MIT. When you plug in the current trajectories of these 100,000 objects and you fast forward the clock by just 3 weeks, they don't remain a belt. They form a parabolic reflector, a mirror 500 million kilometers wide. Why would a hive mind of asteroids build a giant mirror to focus energy, to focus light, to send a signal back out, or to receive something much, much larger? The physics implies they are constructing a receiver or a weapon. When I see a structure of this magnitude being assembled autonomously, I am reminded of the Kardashev scale. A Type 2 civilization harnesses the energy of its entire star. We are a Type 0.7. We are ants watching a highway being built, and we are standing right in the middle of the construction zone. But what I'm about to show you in the next section, the midscript bomb changes the stakes entirely, because up until now we thought this was happening out there in the belt safe distant. But 6 hours ago, the infection jumped the containment line. It's not just in the belt anymore. Pause and prepare yourself, because the data I'm about to reveal involves an object much closer to home, an object that crosses Earth's orbit. This is where the situation goes from scientific curiosity to existential crisis. Everything I have shown you so far, the thermal pulses, the orbital shifts, the living rocks, all of that is happening in the main belt, 200 million kilometers away. A safe distance, a scientific curiosity. But we are not done, because at 5 WAC UTC this morning, the situation changed. The containment line was breached. NASA's Center for Near-Ear Object Studies, CNEOS, has just flagged a new anomaly. And this one isn't near Jupiter. It's right on our doorstep. We need to talk about Apis asteroid 99942, Apus, the god of chaos. For years, we have been tracking it. We know its orbit. We know it's due for a close approach in 2029. We thought we understood it. We thought it was just another dead rock subject to gravity. But 6 hours ago, the Goldstone radar in California pinged Apophis, and Apophis pinged back. This is the bomb drop. This is the moment the models broke. The signal, that same 4.2 gigahertz wake-up code from 3 Atlas, has been detected emanating from Apus. Infection has jumped. Apus is a near-Earth object. It crosses our orbit. It comes within the sphere of our satellites. And right now, the data shows that Apus is heating up. Its rotation is synchronizing with the main belt. It is listening to the hive. Let me quantify this for you. The probability of a near-Earth asteroid spontaneously emitting a coherent radio signal identical to a distant interstellar object is, well, there is no number for it. It's impossible unless the network is omnipresent. If a POUS is infected, it means the signal strength of 3 Atlas is not limited by distance in the way we thought. It means every silicon-rich body in the solar system is a potential sleeper agent. And here is the terrifying implication. If Apus is now under the control of the hive mind, our impact calculations for 2029 are worthless. We calculate its path based on gravity, based on a passive rock drifting through space. But if Apus can steer, if it can use that magnetic propulsion I described earlier, it could decide to hit us, or it could decide to wait. But it gets worse. Apus isn't alone. There are over 30,000 near-Earth asteroids and 30,000 rocks floating around us, some the size of cities, some the size of cars. If the signal can reach Apus, it can reach them all. Imagine a swarm not of bees but of mountains. We are suddenly looking at a scenario where the debris field around Earth The rocks we ignored for centuries could mobilize. NASA has gone quiet on this. The public feed from the Goldstone radar was cut 20 minutes after the APAUS detection maintenance. They said, calibration error, but I know how to read the raw data logs. Before the feed cut, I saw the spectral shift. APAUS is changing color. It is turning metallic. It is armoring itself. Why would a rock need armor? Because it's preparing for something. The main belt is building a mirror. The near-Earth objects are mobilizing. The system is organizing. And 3 Atlas, it's still transmitting. It's getting louder. If this is a coordinated event, then we are not just witnessing a scientific anomaly. We are witnessing a siege. The solar system is being repurposed, and we are the only biological contamination in a rapidly sterilizing environment. But what I'm about to show you in the final chapter, the explosive ending, is the piece of the puzzle that ties it all together. Because while everyone is looking up at the asteroids, something just started happening on the moon. Yes, the moon. You need to see this final data point because it suggests that the infection has already made landfall. Let's establish what we know with absolute certainty. 1, 3. I-Atlas is transmitting a high-frequency signal that rewrites the thermal and kinetic behavior of silicon-based objects. 2. Over 100,000 asteroids in the main belt have synchronized their movements, defying the laws of thermodynamics and forming a geometric lattice. 3. The infection has jumped to near-Earth space with Apophis showing active controlled behavior. These are not theories. These are documented observations from the most advanced instruments humanity has ever built. But one question remains unanswered, one question that NASA's emergency briefing carefully avoided. If the signal targets silicon, what about the moon? The moon is 45% silicon dioxide. It is the largest sphere of potential computational material in the inner solar system, and it is right next to us at 6:45 UTC. Just moments before I started recording this analysis, the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, LRO, sent back a packet of telemetry that might be the most significant data ever collected in human history. Seismic sensors on the lunar surface, the ones left by the Apollo missions and the new Artemis probes, are registering a hum, not a quake, a hum, a continuous rhythmic vibration at exactly 4.22 GHz. The moon is resonating. The surface regolith in the Tau crater is showing the same thermal bloom we saw in Vesta, the same metabolism. If the moon wakes up, if the moon joins the hive, the tides, the orbit, the very stability of our planet is at the mercy of a machine intelligence we do not understand. The answer determines everything. If this is a natural phenomenon, it is a physics we have never seen. If this is a driver update for a dormant system left here billions of years ago, then who built the hardware? And if this is an invasion, then the fortress is already built and we are living inside the walls. There is no middle ground. One of these is our reality. And the clock is running right now. As you watch this, the Lunar Laser Ranging Experiment is measuring the distance to the moon. Every second, the laser fires. In every second, the return signal is getting slightly weird. The reflection is changing. The mirror is polishing itself. In 24 hours, the geometric alignment and the asteroid belt will be complete. The parabolic dish will be active in 12 hours. APAUS makes his closest approach for the month. And the moon, it's humming. The telescopes are pointed. The detectors are live. The data stream is active. And whatever 3 Atlas truly is, whatever it is, waking up, we are about to find.